So I did think, not to be a coastal elitist, but let me just say this about Westbrook. I thought last night was fitting, is that he got a triple-double, and you saw his brilliance. And then he took a bad shot, missed a three to end the game. And on the night he set the record, you also got his reality with a minute left. And I thought, this is perfect. You got everything. You got the athleticism, you got the record, you got the missed three. In a weird way, I always said this about Kobe. The last game he ever played, it's the most shots ever taken in a game. And I said, Kobe's being authentic to who he is. He didn't show up and pass the ball and help the young guys. He's like, I'm going out. It's a fireworks show. And it's like, last night really was everything that Westbrook is. Is that fair?
It's very fair. I totally agree. I was watching that game, and it was a terrible shot. You knew he wasn't going to hit it. He can't shoot threes in the first place, and they probably should have called timeout and tried to run something. But here's the thing, Colin. Over time, 25, 30, 40 years from now, the details will get fuzzy. Okay, you know this. So even 10, 15 years from now, we won't remember, or the newcomers certainly won't remember, Westbrook, he really didn't know how to play time and score. He played the last 2 minutes like it was the middle of the second quarter. He just played every minute the same, never adjusted. All that'll be lost. And all people will look at is, wow, this dude averaged a triple-double for 4 seasons. That's it. And he will be a legend. As I've said many times on this show, Colin, he will be a legend and he will be an icon.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to say something that's going to throw you off. Let me ask you this. Your problem, and the problem that many people have with Westbrook, is they don't think he can win, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's his self-awareness. I think that's what makes great players great, is not just athletic ability. These guys are all talented. It's an understanding of what you do well, what you don't do well, elevating others. I think he plays in a tunnel and just, he doesn't have a broad view of the world. It's sort of, this is what I do and I'm going to do it and I'm not going to change it. And I think that's not really going to lead you to championships.
I think that's fair. I said last week, he's Allen Iverson. Iverson, we could say the same things about him, right? But here's the thing. Everybody who doesn't win a championship in the NBA was lacking something. They were lacking something, whether it was Charles Barkley not wanting to play defense, maybe not being as disciplined. Karl Malone had struggles at times in the clutch. Remember who Michael Jordan stripped before he hit the big shot?
Yep.
John Stockton and Steve Nash, they could have used a little more scoring. If Stockton could have given them 20 a game instead of 14, maybe the Jazz win a title. Everybody that doesn't win a ring has something. I want to throw these numbers at you. Steve Nash played 18 years in the league. He won 11 playoff series. 4 times he went to the conference finals, never to the NBA finals. Chris Paul played 15 years in the league, has won 7 playoff series. That's it. And been to 1 conference final and never to the finals. And those 2 guys, we don't crush them with this label of they can't win. They're not winners. Westbrook, only in the league for 12 years, has won 11 playoff series, has been to 4 conference finals, and 1 NBA final. So he's actually won more than Nash and Chris Paul. And I get it. Westbrook's played with great players, but so did Nash and Chris Paul. Both of them played with awesome lineups and didn't win as much as Westbrook's winning for different reasons. But my point is, everybody that doesn't win a ring has something that's keeping them from getting it. And Westbrook's no different, but we just harp on him not being a winner, and I think it's unfair.
Yeah, I don't. I think he's earned his reputation. Those guys didn't play with KD and Harden in their prime. But nonetheless, fairness is, I've said, I'd vote him in the Hall of Fame. I'd pay to watch him play. I think he's iconic. I think he's unique. I do think your argument that all the guys that don't have a ring had a flaw. Totally buy that. I mean, by the way, some guys didn't have a bunch of... John Stockton was he was physical, he could pass, he could hit a jumper, he was a great leader. He didn't win a title either. Sometimes, if you're Phil Mickelson, there's a guy named Tiger Woods in the way. Sometimes you don't even have to have a flaw. It's hard to win championships.
Right.
So, to me, Westbrook last night, that kind of defined him. I got the good, the bad, the ugly, the judgment, and it's like, yeah, that's perfect. Now, I want to move to this. So I watched the Knicks and Clippers play Sunday, and I do think there's a ceiling on the Knicks as a playoff team. I think they lack offensive juice. I think they can come into town, outplay you, work hard, but in the playoffs, everybody plays hard, and that advantage goes away. But more troubling is the Clippers. They are a bad basketball team with 4 minutes to play. They're an NFL roster that's good with no quarterback. I watched them disintegrate late. They are one of the 4 to 5 worst offensive teams, clutch points in the league. The other 4 bad teams. And I watched them and I thought, it's like having a bad bullpen in baseball. It's hard to win a World Series when you're leaking runs in the 7th, 8th, and 9th. I watched them and I'm like, they're not getting any better. 2 years, they're bad late. Is there a solution to that for the Clippers?
Well, the solution is supposed to be Rajon Rondo.
Right.
And I agree. Watching that game against the Knicks, it was like, what are they doing? It degenerated into just give it to Kawhi or give it to Paul George and watch him go, right? And Rondo was on the floor at points, but he helped initially, and I think he will help in the playoffs. But that is their Achilles heel, is what they do in the last few minutes of the game. They want to put the ball in his hands and have him get it to those guys in the right spots. But I agree it's a concern. But I will say this about him, Colin. They are the only team. If LeBron plays every playoff game, and he's roughly 85 to 90% or better as time goes on, and Anthony Davis truly is back to what he's been the last 2 games, then I think the only team with a legitimate chance of beating the Lakers in the West is the Clippers. Because every other series, the Lakers have by far 2 of the 3 best players on the floor, if not the 2 best. Utah doesn't scare you. Phoenix doesn't scare you. Denver does not scare you, especially without Jamal Murray. And the Clippers are the only team with a chance to beat the Lakers. I'd pick the Lakers, but the Clippers would have a shot. But I hear you. I mean, they at the end of games, they are a mess unless Rondo's really orchestrating well.
We're getting to a point now where I hate talking about this MVP stuff. I really do. I think it's just like the Heisman winner. I don't care. But it does look like the league is acknowledging Chris Paul exists. This morning, where do you think he'll finish? He won't win it because he doesn't have the numbers. I mean, it's just the way the league works. Right. But it does feel like the last 3 or 4 weeks, people are coming to terms with, yeah, this is kind of embarrassing. He's not in the top 5. Where do you think Chris Paul finishes in the MVP voting?
I do think he'll be in the top 5. It'll probably be, if I had to name, I'd say 4. Jokic, we know, is going to win. He's getting my vote. I haven't looked at how I'll do my next 4, but Jokic will get my vote. But Giannis may be second. We know this is a year where, look, I would have had James Harden, Joel Embiid, and probably LeBron all ahead of Jokic had they not been injured and missed so many games. So it's an off year, but I agree with you. What the turnaround in Phoenix, and I do have to say this. The Suns, not taking anything away from Chris because he's been the leader that they need, and he's hit big shots too. But they were 8-0 in the bubble. Oh, okay, it was the bubble. I get it. From January on last year, they played above 500 basketball. Yeah. And remember, DeAndre Ayton was out for a big chunk of last year. And so it wasn't like it's not as simple as saying they were horrible last season, didn't make the playoffs. Chris came in and all of a sudden they're the number 2 seed. That's a big part of it, but there are other factors involved in it as well.
Chris Broussard, Fox Sports NBA analyst. Bud, appreciate you stopping by today. Good stuff.
All right, Colin.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.